Hi there, I'm Dani Henderson, spiritualtherapist.com, and today it is the 3rd of June, 2022, and the stunning Adonis that you see with the purple screen beside me is my beautiful friend, Tony Rodrigues. Mwah! Kisses and love to you, Tony Rodrigues. How are you, angel?
I'm good, man. What a great intro. I don't know how to live up. I'm definitely not an Adonis, and that's why the camera shows me from the chest up. So, but thank you for that. Very warm. It's so good to see you. I've been planning this. I was excited for this interview so much that I was set up last Friday. And I got all my stuff together and I said, "We ready?" Remember? And I sent you a message and I went, "No, never mind. I know it's next week." But it was like on my mind the whole time because what you're putting together and what you're doing here, with the conference coming up is like big. This is a big one. This is a big thing. Like we're using words like shift, and this conference is just like for me personally something very important. Like we had a few good ones this year, and a couple that washed out, but the conferences are growing, and the crowd. Every time the crowd comes, it's like they're more and more knowledgeable of everything that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
And it's great to see the progression from conference to conference. This one's going to be big.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. We're going to get into that. Tony, turn your volume up. I can't hear you very clearly. I think your volume's down.
Okay.
Let's see. On the laptop and the mic, just in case. But yeah.
How about that? Is that any better?
Yes, mate. Much better.
Just mental note, talk into the microphone.
Yeah. Yes, it's rather useful. Well, in terms of the introduction I just did for you, darling, if I had a drum kit, I would have done a drum roll for you because, mate, you are a shining light in this disclosure element that's happening on the planet. Now, disclosure has been happening for years and years and years and years, but never more so now. Now that people are standing shoulder to shoulder and beautifully, gently moving through, all the dog turds that try to stop disclosure for their own devious means are just being overshadowed by the light because, of course, love wins and light wins, etc. You mentioned some conferences that you've done. Can we just spend a minute sharing? I call them the boys, that they are men. Aaron Kuhn and Tyler Koala. I'm so proud of them. I was so happy for them to put on their Secret Space conference, which is now past. And you were a speaker there. Can you just share a little bit of insight as to what that was about?
That was one of the best times ever. We just had an absolute blast from start to finish. And it was all on one subject matter. So a lot of conferences, when you get to the older conferences that are out west, so, the real ufology, the conferences are always in Vegas or California somewhere. And they've been at it a long time. So they've had a very fragmented subject matter. And so they get healing and everything. This conference that Journey to Truth put on was solely about secret space program disclosure. And so the entire audience was aware. I asked everybody, I like to ask the audience, like, who's read my book? And a show of hands, and you get hands, and who's seen me on video? And usually half. This one, everybody raised their hand, and the entire audience knew me. And I thought, wow, I'm not, okay, then I'm all set. Goodbye, good night. But it carried on. It was a very fun time. You feed off the crowd. You can deliver more information to a crowd that already knows, rather than a crowd that doesn't know who you are. You have to begin and lay out a framework. And so the Journey to Truth conference was very advanced. Each speaker went on and was able to just kind of full throttle into the crowd, and it showed. And so not only that, the crowd was the star to me. There were a documentary that got filmed. It was a very high caliber production on us in the Netherlands, and that's around the internet to see. They did a great job. It was for a TV station in Amsterdam, I believe. There was a lot that went on, and there were a few people that had some bad luck, but there were a lot of people that were we had a very pleasant time, the whole from start to finish. And conferences there's a lot of moving parts. It's hard to stick the landing on conferences. There's a lot of things that happen that never don't go exactly ideal. And this one, they did a wonderful job. Tyler and Aaron, I don't know who was responsible for what in the planning, but they did a wonderful job with it. I hope they have one next year. I would go to that even if I wasn't a speaker.
Ah, that's wonderful. Yeah. And it's time, it's time for the right people to be managing and creating these beautiful gatherings. Their heart and mind and soul is in the right place and not looking at it as a massive profit making. I mean, goodness, and of course needs to be a profit. Of course there does. You're giving your entire life into something like this. But I just think it's wonderful that we're really seeing the true heroes and heroines of love and light and kindness and benevolence. And that's what we're all aching for, I feel, as a humanity. So you mentioned the conference in October, which for those of you that don't know, it is the Galactic and Spiritual Informers Connection. It is a literal shift in consciousness. Up to 1,700 people will be there in attendance. And the speakers amongst the lineup, which is the highest pedigree, in my opinion, and others, the highest level of disclosure, in my opinion, and others, we have people like Tony Rodrigues, who's going to be standing on stage. Now, Tony, let's start with something, because there's a few little interrupters out there that are absolutely not for such a conference as this. What is one of the things that you will not share on stage, just so we can calm them down and put them all back in their boxes?
So actually, a lot of so what happened to me wasn't, I went up when I was on stage in Grafton. I said this I went on Journey of Truth, and I said this weeks after the fact. I said, it was a lighthearted thing. The family, the audience was like family. There was a family atmosphere. I went on stage and was lighthearted and cracked jokes, and everybody laughed, and we had it. My testimony is not something that's funny, and by any means. And I don't have my testimony out because I want revenge, or I'm trying to get somebody in jail, or, it's my testimony was to prove that their system of erasing our memories doesn't work, that people do remember their memories. That's the whole thing. That's the whole motivation behind me speaking publicly about it. They tortured me, and they said it was okay because I wasn't going to remember it. And so I do remember it. And me speaking about it is my form of justice, to let them know that there are all these ETs that think they're vastly superior to us, that people aren't as smart as them, and that I did remember it. So their tech isn't foolproof. So that's one thing, but that's not what you were getting at. During my time that I was taken and served in these Black programs, I witnessed a lot of very dark things, and I have names and places and people and events that check out that are part of my the evidence of my testimony, mostly the SRA stuff and a lot of the abuse in the early years. And so I won't be talking about that. I really won't touch on that. It's covered in the book. Everybody wants to know the names. When I do an interview, if you look in the YouTube comment, everybody taking a guess at the names of these billionaires in the Seattle area. And I don't confirm or deny that, because there's a lot of things. Firstly, I have a family to think of. Yeah. Secondly, they have a family. They have families to think of, and not everybody's involved. So just because you have one dark player in a family or one person, that doesn't mean the entire family is guilty and needs to be harassed. And they've moved on. They've passed on. So there are things. There are breadcrumbs in my testimony for sure, but I will never publicly come out with the names of the people that I remember on Earth. I would never do that publicly. I have shared with researchers as a form of, with proper researchers, as a form of testimony, evidence to my testimony. But I don't go around shouting the names, and I don't feel that people should at this point. I don't feel that, to say we want disclosure, and also everyone that's been involved needs to go to jail immediately, or we need revenge or justice. The justice will come later. Justice happens naturally. It'll come later. Really, we need disclosure. We need people to all be on the same page, that know that these things did happen in our history. They are happening in our days, and we have to change the way they happen in the future by disclosing. And that's the whole reason that it's been abused, is because it's been secret. And so just talking about the technology that already exists, that people are already using, the technology that the military has, and the space travel and what's going on, that's what needs to be, that's where we're at in the battle right now. we need to make that household, we need to make these terms household terms and not laughed at. And so whether everybody that doesn't tune into all of our YouTubes, that even everybody needs to know what the secret space program really means, what that term means. And when we're talking about people going on career return programs, 20 and back, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. People need to know about this technology, and that's going to change the way that we think about it and the way that they have to deal with us. They can no longer just pick and choose whoever they want and take people. So consent is a big deal. I talked about that. I will definitely go into more depth in that in my presentation in Orlando. Consent is a very big deal. It's possibly our greatest weapon. The other greatest weapon we have against the secret programs abusing us is, just like I said, to proliferate the information. And it is. So when I started talking about this in 2016, there was a pretty big audience, but they kind of waned and went with a lot of the drama that happened. And now we're seeing an even bigger audience happen. My testimony is known. And I used to, like I said, we talked off camera, you know, I've done conferences where I walked in and nobody knew me. I said, who knew me? Who knows me? And there were 3 or 4 people raised their hand out of 50 or 60. And so I go, okay. And we start at this beginning and go from there. But now I think it's proliferated quite a bit. I think that we've kind of stayed the course, and we've got a pretty big audience, and it needs to keep getting bigger. This is what everybody in the world needs to know, because the secret space program and the ETs are really what's behind all the weird stuff that's happening in the world that we all share. So sorry, I don't want to be on a rant.
No, please. No, that was beautifully put. Thank you so much. You put so many layers down, so many tracks down just in those last few minutes, Tony. Thank you so much. Yeah, you're right. You know, the minority has become those that still don't know that there are extra civilizations here below the earth and above. And you guys, you need to get a clue. Come on, Lauf, get on with it. You know, you're the minority now. It's the truth. What about those retards putting that rubbish out? Oh, look at this little tic-tac in the sky. What is that, Jim? I don't know, Bob. Oh my God. Oh, shut up. It's like, all you have to do is go to James Gilliland at the Assetti Ranch and go and look at his years and years and years of footage. You want to see a mothership? You want to see scout ships? You want to see ships phasing in and phasing out? Don't waste time looking. Don't bother with that stupid space agency. And I say the stupid space agency, Tony, because I have a background in the space industry and aerospace and satellite construction. So I'm not just some stupid blonde gobbing off, you know, on her channel. I'm actually somebody with a long-term background in space technologies. So shove it. Now, I've got no patience for it anymore, neither of you. And this conference that we're putting on for the world that can attend, not everyone can attend, and that's something else. And that, guys, I can't help it if you can't get out your country right now. Hopefully by October, all the retards that run the planet and try and stop you finding out about what your planet Earth is really like and what's happening, maybe those babies will have buggered off by then. It's like, I can't manage if you can't make it to the Rolling Stones concert. Okay, so just, we're doing our best. There'll be certain people there. They're not more privileged than you. They're not more elite than you. It's just going to be a situation. But my God, Tony Rodrigues is going to be standing on stage. He's going to be sharing loads of information. None of the Illuminati names. Don't worry about that, you guys. Back off. But everything else, oh my God, Tony, share about your book, please. What is in the book that we can learn more about when we see you on stage in October?
Well, it's, you know, the other thing I do that I've learned that I did at the last conference was I begged all the speakers to write a book. A lot of people don't have a book out, and it's changed my life for the better. It's made it so much easier to cope with what happened and just not have to relive and rehash the same details of the story hundreds of times, which I have in interviews because I didn't have a book. Now I can say, you know, that's in the book if you want to touch on it. Like we said, like you're talking about the Illuminati names and what happened, like that's in the book as far as I'm willing to talk about it. It's all in there. There's no names in there either. But if you're curious about what happened, I did a pretty good job of describing how it all happened, and it gives everybody a very clear picture of what it was like, what I went through. And so I can move on and talk about other things. Like I'm already planning a third book that's just going to be about me since I came public, like the story of what happened when I started doing interviews about it. And really from the moment I got my memories, really when they coalesced and I really got a clear picture of what I was remembering from that moment on, that'll be like the third book that I do. But I think that's an interesting thing. And I think a lot of people will be interested to see what it's been like for me and what's happened behind the scenes. Again, not really naming names of bad things, but just the process of research and how it's happened. Because what's true is that time is the best lie detector. It's time. If everything that I put in my book and in my interviews doesn't check out, time will tell. Time will prove me right or wrong. And I always said that back early in the early days when I had pushback. I had people that said, I'm a 4-letter L word that they invented to describe people that are faking it. And I said, okay, well, that's fine, but time will tell. And what's happened is over, we're in 22, 6 years time, it's only supported me. Things have checked out. Things over time have just keep checking out. Like other places in your current things on Ceres that have found people that have been found, literature that's been found, documents about the CIA programs, documents about the places that I said I stayed, that I knew. Like everything keeps checking out. Every time I find another possibility to prove me wrong, it actually supports me. And that's what's happened over time. And that'll happen to everybody else that's talking too. So time will tell. And because of that reason, I'm happy that I got my book done. We got it done on the 31st of December of 2021, and we pressed upload to Amazon. And a couple days later, it was published. And so the first of the year of this year, it was published. I'm hoping to do the same thing at the end of the year for the next book. And right at the end of the year, hopefully by the first of the year, it'll be published on Amazon. And it's a bumpy ride so far, but it's not going to be what this book is, or even a sequel. Really, it's more like a companion, and it'll be. I don't know. I'd like to say about the same amount of pages, but writing books, you always want pages. But I'm not going to just fill it with crap just to have pages in there. So it's just there's a story to tell. There's a little bit more that everybody asked for from this book. I'm really hard. I gotta say that if you look on Amazon and you go to the listing of Ceres Colony Cavalier, my book is listed, and you read the reviews. I do read the reviews, and maybe I ain't gonna lie, a lot of it's an ego stroke. People are very cool, you know what I mean? People are very, Tony, we love you, and there's been a lot of support there, and it's an ego. I get it. I'm like, wow, like I'm pumped up from it. But the other thing about the reviews is that they're honest reviews. People are telling their honest opinions, and the book makes a difference to people when they read it. A lot of people read it, and it really makes a difference to them. So it's very touching to me to read a lot of the reviews. And there's a couple of negative ones, and they're incoherent. They're like babble. They're like weird. So yeah. So
it's
I mean,
like, why comment like those retards? And I say retard using the full breadth of the actual meaning of that word. As far as I'm concerned, a retard is a loveless, soulless person. A retard is somebody who runs a government, an authoritative figure, because they're all failures. They can't manage shit. They've got starving people, hungry people, homeless people, and they've got people coming back from war, our sons and daughters, our brothers, our sisters, our mums and our dads, coming back from war after fighting, knowingly fighting, not like the secret space program where you're abducted, which we're going to get to. But they put these people out. These people come back having suffered the worst abuses ever, and they don't take care of them. How retarded can you be? You couldn't lead yourself out of a wet paper bag. But that's what we're replacing. We're replacing all of that now. No. So on Amazon, I think it's beautiful that you get all these loving comments. Darling, you were abducted as a 10-year-old little boy. You suffered horrifically. I think it's wonderful that people have the compassion, the love, and the admiration for you. Just to go, Tony, we love you. Thank you for remembering. Thank you for sharing. And Tony, that it's forefront leaders like you who have opened a pathway of light behind you to bring others into their own awareness and their own, feeling brave now, because everyone's threatened with death, murder, families, kids, everyone's threatened by the retards that think they're still in charge. And you know, you've opened the gateway, and it's so lovely. What I'm noticing, and I've noticed for a while, is like the energy frequency on our planet, it is so less dense. It's just so, there's so much more light everywhere, and the dark cannot exist in that. It's just not possible. And we're like this beautiful army of love warriors for all the different things that we've experienced and seen and gone through. And we've all come together in this beautiful kind of mosaic of, you know, the loving humanity and survival of this consciousness that we are, and this raising of consciousness that we are. It's just so completely wonderful. And Tony, you know, you take your place at the front, sir, please. You're standing alongside people like Alex Collier, you know, who's been reporting on his Andromedan contactees for 40 years. He'll be speaking at the conference. You're standing alongside people like Elena Danan, who is an earth emissary for the Galactic Federation of Worlds. You know what else? You just said something so interesting. You said, the test of time, the testimony, the test of time stands when you've been saying for years, this, and this, and other people start revealing the truths you already shared. Elena kept diaries of drawings like Valnek and Thorhan, her Pleiadian friends, and Thorhan and Valnek are best friends. They've come together. They rescued Elena when she was a 9-year-old little girl. And she's been drawing pictures from 13, 14, and she's been getting them out and showing them. You know, yes, I don't know whether you saw that, one of our last broadcasts last week. Was it Facebook? I can't remember. Yeah, because we were sitting here I think it was last November, December, in this house, and we were on Zoom, and Valnek appeared in a huge bubble. That's sometimes how they pop into my house here. They come in these huge bubbles. Yeah, part of it is the crystalline energy under the mountain here, quartz energy, the metallic and the glass and the way the light hits, and it's an ancient sacred jungle. You know, and all of that, and plus I'm a complete, you know, beacon for, you know, the beloveds and the benevolence, and like you have always had experiences with our beautiful benevolent extraterrestrials, angelics, and other beings, you know. And now, you know, in my head, I'm like, oh God, all my girlfriends from school, they're like, oh my God, there goes Dani again. There goes Dani. But now I'm like, oh, God love you. You know, bless your heart. It's going to be a little bit of a shock when you find out that it is all normal, but that's all right. I'll still love you. You know, I won't judge you. I won't say told you so. I wouldn't take any pleasure in that. Will you? Will you take pleasure in saying told you so, told you so?
No, sadly, I won't. And you know, we lived through the same thing. There was a time when televisions came out that everybody said they were crazy. When cars came out, they said, you're crazy. No one's going to get a gas station. I'm going to keep my horse. And so then when computers came out, you're a nerd. People that are on computers are nerdy. What is that going to get you? The internet happened and nobody was interested. And lo and behold, everybody has a colored cell phone computer in their pocket driving their car down the road. Yeah, everybody. So that's where we're at with this, with disclosure, with alien contact, with the ET contact, and with astral contact, with all of the stuff that is grouped into under the ufology field, and the spirituality that really has nowhere else to go, so follows the ufology. It's all one thing. And we are the nerds with the computer on the block back in the day when everybody thought we were nerdy. And so pretty soon everybody's going to have a computer too in their pocket. And because after a disclosure, we're going to learn that the spirituality is exactly what we all know it is, that the universe is consciousness based, and we all have we're not a small thing in it. We are all a big chunk of consciousness, and we have a big say mentally what happens through astral communication and through just the way quantum holograph theory. And so these are things that are going to come to the forefront. People are going to have to learn this. And I think the kids, if you look at the kids these days, they're going to take to it like fish in water. Like after a post disclosure, the kids these days are going to be like fish in water, and they're going to swim easily. You know, that being said, we still have a long way to go. I'm not ready to declare victory yet. And you see the leaders and the people that want the world to stay in the dark about this. They want you to think that there's only a few ETs and we conquered them, or there's only, if you do go into space, you can only go to another star because it's so far away. They want this narrative still so that they can control it. But the reality is there are trillions of species that interact, and we can get to other galaxies and back in the same day. And the entire galaxy is accessible, and That's the reality of space, of what a disclosure is going to look like. We get interacted with by any of a trillion different sentient species can come here and leave and on the earth and interact with us. So that's what's happened throughout history, and that's why everybody's testimony is so different. So this is what a post-disclosure kind of knowledge base is worth, and people are going to stop bickering when we have something better to aspire to be. When we look at it, so right now we're bickering over having a nice car or a nice house or whatever it is, a thing. And when we see what really advanced spirituality has, we're going to begin to try to aspire to be spiritually better. And it's the whole world's going to change at that point. The whole entire, everything is going to, a lot of things are just going to fall. They're just going to fall away. We don't need a cure. It's just going to change. It's just going to fall away. All of the bad interests that a lot of people have in the world today is just going to, they're just going to let go of those damaging tools that they have. So
that's right.
Sorry, I'm on a tangent again.
Good. No, this is good, Tony. This is what we want. You know, this is a little chit chat, you and I catching up. Guys, I want you to know that, I forget when, I think it was definitely last year, the first time I interviewed you on my small but mighty channel, which I was completely guided by spirit to create. I had no intention of going back out in the public again, but then I just did. And I interviewed you, and your story, I think the title is The Little Boy Who Was Abducted at 10. So guys, if you want to watch the original on my channel, and of course, many other people have had the honor of interviewing you, but I'm just going to refer to my channel right now. That's where you'll find Tony, his whole story. It's really quite harrowing journey, beautiful, sad, tragic. But Tony, I remember one of the things, and this gives me hope for our kids too, in terms of them knowing that there is other realities until the adults break them and say, that's just your imagination, grow up. And when you were kidnapped by gray aliens, stinky ass, could you smell them? Because they're so fetid and sulfuric. Could you smell them when they were kidnapping you from your bedroom? You remember?
In my room, I don't remember smelling anything. I remember when I touched it. It messed with me a little bit. Like, it didn't interact. Like, I woke up and I looked up and I saw its face, but it was dark out. So I thought my dad was pulling a prank on me and had a mask on. My dad would do stuff like that. He had a really prank sense of humor. And I said, Dad, take the mask off. You're not funny. And I reached up and touched it. And when I touched it, like right here, and it was cold and wet. And you could feel giant pores, like it was bumpy. And I went, and that's when it stuck me. I don't know what it did. I don't know what it did exactly, but I was paralyzed. I could move my eyes and my head was kind of stuck up, and then I watched the smaller reptilians come from the foot of my bed around and carry me out of bed, like I had my eyes open. But that's funny because I don't remember. I remember like a sulfury metal smell in where I ended up, like in the examination area when they were examining me. So I don't know if that was them, or I don't know what exactly it was.
Yeah.
But
you just said reptilians at the end of the bed. So I remember you saying it was greys that came in the room. So it was a combination of reptilians and greys that took you, that paralyzed you and took you.
A taller gray was right there, and then the reptilians came in and actually carried me. They were shorter reptilians. I've got pretty good artist drawing of those that I share. But yeah, they came in and carried me right out, 3 or 4 of them.
And then when you woke up on the ship and you're on a metal bed and they're doing medical procedures on you, there was a point where you were sitting up and you were like, I knew you guys were real. Like, you weren't scared at all at that point, were you? So go back, that 10-year-old little boy, like, it must have been so exciting and scary. But before you realized that they were going to take you for 20 years, what was that like, that moment? And how did you know about aliens, Tony?
I think all kids know. I think there's just the same way that children know things. Man, I wish I had a better example to give you off the top of my head, but kids know things. Kids that are 6, 7, 8 years old, they know things that they shouldn't, just because it's kind of like they're more in touch with their intuition. And we all know that there's life up there. I mean, everybody knows it already. We deep inside, even the most skeptical people are just going through the motions of being skeptical, because they know that there's life out there, that the cosmos is full. When you look at the stars at night, you have to not look at the sky at night for a very long time, for a matter of months or years, to not realize that there are planets up there and there's life everywhere, that the cosmos are dense with life. Like as a little kid, it was easy to look up at the sky and just conclude that we have our sun and we have our star with the earth. And you look up at the sky and see thousands of stars on a clear night, that those are all have planets with people around them too. That's just, it's a logical conclusion. It's an easy thing. And they really worked hard. Science really worked hard to talk us out of it from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. They really worked very hard to say, nope, it's impossible. They worked it. That false narrative. And the thing is, we trusted. We didn't think that there was anything such as a false narrative back then.
Mm-hmm.
So to be fair to our parents and our grandparents who fell for it, they believed this is a post-World War. So we believed everything the government told us, the news told us, we believed everything, and we all pitched in and did our part. And they were giving us a false narrative during this time. So now where we're at in 2022,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's aware that there's one false narrative after another that's coming out of it. I can turn on my TV right now and we would sit here and laugh, me and you both. I know that if you were in my living room and we put on the news, you and I both would just sit and laugh about it. And the whole time, like, it wouldn't take 5 minutes, but that's what we're aware of now. And a shockingly huge amount of people are still not aware of this, that the actual narratives from the news are basically in corporate interests, not in the American interests, or not even in the public's interest, but
Not
in corporate
humanities.
interests.
Yeah, just about
Yes.
them. I just think, for me, when I was really uncovering, I found it so devastating that I so believed in some of these presidents and prime ministers around the world. I so believed in some of the daytime broadcasters. I so believed in their, philanthropic escapades and, and I'm like, no, how could I have been so gullible and so taken in? Well, because we've been so hardwired to trust authority. That's the 101 lesson that we all have to learn. If we haven't already, we better get a clue now. I can't think of one single person on the planet who I actually trust in any form of authority. Seriously. And I mean that, like, start there. But yeah. Back to you as a little boy going, I knew you guys were real. I knew it. Are you going to land on Earth? Like, I remember your excitement, and that's part of what you say in our broadcast on my channel. But, and then from that point, like, just take us a little bit into, and then let's just go back into your book a bit, but just go there for a minute.
When I first woke up and I found myself surrounded by non-humans, because I'm not good with the names of it. That's why I'm so happy. Elena Danon's work has been pivotal because she's naming names of other species. So that's great. She's through her own methods and other research that she's done, and she's done an amazing job. It's one of the things that they deleted from my memories that stayed deleted. And it turned, for me, as far as I'm concerned, it wasn't that important. So I didn't really put a lot of emphasis into remembering the names. But when I woke up around non-humans, my first instinct was like, are you going to eat me? What's going on? And I started being slightly hysterical. And before that happened, there was a reptilian there, and he communicated with somebody. He said, whoa. And he had a very familiar demeanor, the way that he thought. It was like talking to a 22-year-old man, and with a sense of humor. He'd say, well, easy, kid. You're gonna be fine. Like he was reassured. He's like, we're not gonna hurt you. We're here to help you. We're here working with you guys. And he really was reassuring. And that's when after it sunk in, then I was elated. I said, you guys are here to help. You're working with us? Yes. And that's when it dawned on me that, Star Wars and all the fiction that I saw was real. And here we go. We're gonna get the next level. You know what I mean? The world. The other thing is, when I was a kid, so I grew up after I was born in 1972. So all of the media, when I was from a kid until the 1980s, until I was taken, was basically the post-Vietnam dismal media. That the war, it was a Cold War. It was the height of the Cold War. There was nuclear. We could have a nuclear bomb any minute from Russia. And so the to think about the world the way it was and to think about ETs interjecting in it, I was ecstatic because it was obvious that we needed some sort of guidance because the world wasn't a safe place. They really scared you during the Cold War. The media really scared you into thinking that, you know, something bad could happen around any minute. And they're still doing that, right? So it's a control thing. So that I saw that, it was kind of like a way out, like I drew that. But they tested me. They needed genetics to see if I was compatible to their program, and the genetic test took longer than all the other tests. Like they did a physical on me and I was fine, but they had to test the genetics. They stuck me with things, and they took samples out of me, and then they ran tests. And when it came back, and he said I was just barely compatible. I could go one time. And they told me they had to get my consent, and I thought I was helping them out, so I consented. I said yes. And he explained how it worked. That, you know, he said, we're going to take you for 20 years. And I first said, no, I can't do that because I have my mom and dad. And he said, nope, we're going to do time travel, and we're going to put you right back. You're going to wake up tomorrow morning. You're going to get a free extra 20 years. And, you know, the years of your life. He didn't use the term 20 years that often. He did, but not that often. Like they had, just the same way that a clever salesman avoids certain terms, they were doing that as well. And so they had to talk me into consent. And when I did that, they began a procedure on me, and I woke up with no memories of who I was. And turns out it was Inyokern Airport in 3 buildings in Inyokern Airport with other kids like me. And we began a trauma-based mind control program where we were traumatized greatly. We were abused and programmed to respond to commands a certain way. And then we went into a remote viewing program. It essentially was remote viewing, but it was more than remote viewing. It went on to other things. And we landed where we tested, you know, the different kids had different abilities. And where I tested and where I landed was that they would drug me and give me like bring me close to death, near death, and I would channel other intelligences. I would speak through me, and they were getting information, past and future events. And so that was my first stop in those programs, in the Black programs, after I was taken. So does that answer your question? That was a lot.
Yeah, no, it's good though. It's just so heartbreaking. Every time I hear you talk about it, it's just like so heavy and so shocking. But you know, again, you know, we need to. This is disclosure, and people need.
You know what? I would give this with a warning. As a lot of people, there were people that couldn't finish, that they thought the book was going to be. I don't know what they thought it was going to be, but the book is not. I didn't hold anything back in the book because, you know, in the same breath of being truthful, you can't really hold back, you know, the good and the bad. When you're being truthful about something, you have to present all. You have to just let it all go, and that's kind of what the book did. There was not really, you know, certain memories are clearer than others. And so the ones that were clear, I included, and it wasn't for any other purpose other than, you know, research. I looked at my testimony as something that somebody else can research. You know, they can read my book, and they can go off and find and research it. And there's real life things people do. Once in a great while, people contact me, or they contact someone else. I will say that Dr. Sella has told me privately that people have come to him with evidence. Like they've seen my story and they go and research it, and they come up thinking like, wow, I found this and it supports this Tony. It supports what Tony said. I believe him. I want you to know I was skeptical, but now I believe him. And so privately, he shared some of that with me. It feels good, but it's not. I think right now in life, I'm way past trying to prove it.
Oh yeah.
Like in the conversation I have with people, it's like, if you don't believe me, I'm not even going to talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not. And I do. I mean, like when I'm fully aware that if we get to the next level of media in what we're doing here, when we're talking about this stuff, that I am going to meet one day, I'm going to sit across from a violently skeptical host, and I'm prepared for that. You know, I can stick up for myself. There's enough things. I've got enough evidence in my back pocket behind what happened to me to defend myself. Not everybody is that lucky. Mm-hmm. And I'm aware that could happen. But at the point when I talk about it, like right now, like in Orlando, when I talk, I'm not going to have the footing or the stance that I'm trying to prove it to you.
No.
I'm going to talk about what's happened since. basically.
Totally. And Tony, at this stage, what a waste of time. You know, we're going to have interviewers like me
Yes.
on channels who are like real experiencers talking. No one's got time for mocking anymore. We're too clever.
Mhm.
Humanity has evolved into itself, you know, and so all the little turd burglars, they're all being taken down. We're not going to be watching them anymore. They're all disappearing, you know, and guess what? The women, their faces are going to move. They're going to show their, you know, their faces move. We're not going to have that, right? The kind of this, well, hi there, I have not had my lips done. No, this is my normal face. No, it's not. Okay, we're just going to go back to like a real beautiful organic purity where we own ourselves, our minds, our beingnesses, and our thoughts. And, you know, we're not standing for nonsense anymore. Now, just quickly again, I'm always mindful that there might be the odd person that stumbles across this broadcast that thinks, what the hell are they talking about? We're talking about a little boy who was abducted by aliens, who was then sent onto a secret space program. Could you, in a nutshell, just describe to a person never hearing that term what a secret space program is, please?
Yeah, everybody says, could you just put it in a nutshell? And it's so hard to do because it's a vast thing. But basically, our government and corporations and other governments have been dealing with extraterrestrials for the past 100 years. And there's quite a bit of infrastructure built out secretly, both underground and on the moon and throughout the solar system and nearby stars. There are literally millions of humans from Earth living in space right now, doing research and development and trading technology and goods and people with extraterrestrials from all over the galaxy and in fact other galaxies. And there's a vast trade network, and our solar system is a very valuable piece of real estate in the galaxy because of natural portals that allow access to nearby galaxies. So it's a major throughput of traffic of extraterrestrial races through our solar system, and that a lot of that takes place around Jupiter. And there are a lot of bodies of natural bodies that are inhabited around Jupiter. There's quite a bit that goes on there. The Earth isn't necessarily the focal point of our solar system for travelers. The secret space programs have a radically advanced technology of mind control, mind deleting, time travel, space travel, gravity manipulation, on and on and on, consciousness manipulation. And they've had this for a long time, and they've really perfected it so that the public is completely defenseless against technologies to control the public. We are mind controlled. We've seen them slip recently, but the secret space program is something that's got to disclose, because we're getting to the point where our technology on the ground in every day right here where I'm at in USA, our own technology, somebody is going to be able to build something in their garage, wheel it out, and discover life out there. So they've got to stay ahead of it, and disclosure is coming. And what we've seen for the last 5 years with all the weirdness is a battle for who's going to control disclosure, because it's going to happen whether we like it or not, and whether we're ready for it or not. And I believe we are very ready for it. I think it's time, and I think the longer we go without it, the longer we go without disclosure, the more harm it's doing at this point. I think if we go another year without disclosure, we're going to save lives, and we go 5 years without disclosure, we're going to lose lives. I think that we've reached the point where there was a time when you could say, if we disclose now, people are going to be, we're going to lose lives. People will die from disclosure because they're not ready for it. And I think we're at the opposite now. The longer we go without disclosure, the more harm it's doing. So it needs to happen sooner than later. And we're seeing a lot of desperate acts by governments around the world and by things that are going on to that end, to be in front of disclosure. And we're starting to see it even in our community. So we were, like I said, we were that nerd computer guy. We were the guy with the Commodore on the block that looked like a nerd, and everybody didn't pay him any attention now. And now there's 2 or 3 Commodores on the block, and we're starting to see people come along and say, whoa, don't look at that. He's got a computer. Don't look in there. Please don't. And because it's picking up. Yes, we're starting to see the spin back. So that means we're a lot more important than we thought we were. We're starting to see pushback. We're starting to see these at other conferences. We're starting to see individual speakers. We're starting to see things. There's an effort by somebody. They're spending money, and they're sending money and man hours to discredit and dilute and dissipate the information. We're seeing there are some people talking right now that are big names in it. None of them are at your conference, but there are some people that are out there disclosing things that is just absolute big BS. And it's hogwash. And it's not my job. And it's not my job to go around and point fingers, but I'm saying it because that just shows that we're on the next level of this, of talking about it. We're on the next level of, because now we're on the anti-information's radar. And we're starting to see some big efforts by them, and they're spending money. There are people that are doing it, working full time to try to dissipate our information, which is truthful. I wanted to say this too. We were talking about Journey to Truth earlier, and you were saying how they were successful and people should make money at this. If you're genuine and you do something like this, what I found is that anytime that I tried to go in front of a crowd of people and protect them and kind of dance around the bush, kind of not be 100% genuine, that was the time the crowd didn't really like me. Anytime that I went up and I just said, I'm going to say what is real, and I don't care if the crowd likes it or not, they go absolutely bonkers about it. People in general know when you're being truthful. I think that's one of the, being genuine, I think, is one of the purest forms of love that any human can do to somebody else, is just be absolutely genuine. Because even if we don't work, even if we're incompatible, if you're 100% genuine with me, we're incompatible, I don't waste my time wondering what's going on. I know exactly where I stand, and you know exactly where you stand. We have a genuine thing, and love happens. And I think when I've been in front of an audience and been 100% genuine, I've had the best reactions. And I think we're starting to see that. And the Journey to Truth thing was very successful for that reason, because those guys are genuine. Tyler and Aaron are very genuine people. All the other speakers were very genuine. And it was successful. And I think that's the secret to success, is being genuine. I've been to some other conferences that were not very successful, but they were not very genuine. And when I talk, when you get the guys, the disinfo guy, the guy that retired, I was in the CIA X amount of years ago and I retired, but now I'm good. And you get that guy, and then they talk, and then somebody else talks, and the crowd stands up and cheers for the genuine one, because the crowd knows. Because just like that little kid that looks up at the sky and knows that there's life up there, the adult knows when somebody's speaking and you're being told the truth, or you're being sold a lie. We've been sold so much BS through our whole lives, from people trying to take our money or point us in the wrong direction on something. We've been sold it our whole life, that we recognize that any little bit of genuine remark is we're so desperate for it that people just jump on it, and it just makes your day. It's that one little spark. And so just being genuine is the key to success in this. And that's the thing. We're going to get to the point where these conferences are much bigger. We're going to get a bigger media presence, because the audience is going to eat it up. It's marketable. Being genuine is highly marketable. And just making money at this doesn't make you the devil. It means you can do it more often.
Yeah, and it's like, no, good. This is good.
I'm glad I got that off my chest. Yeah. I wanted that off my chest. Thank you. So
good. My God, it's time. It's time. Again, the programming, we've been told, turn the other cheek, because that's what Jesus did. No, he didn't. Jesus kicked ass. He kicked tables over, right? He came, he had some passion. Yes. You cannot believe a thing you're told. You cannot believe a shirt lifting, molesting, priest, vicar, whatever you want to call him. Like, you could look at the authority, have a really good look, and if you can't, I can't, I'm sorry, because of that, then that's on you. Then just, bless you, love you. We're just going to keep moving on. We're done being controlled. No one's controlling. And as for the media, how embarrassing. I went to college. I qualified as a broadcast journalist. And do you know what? One of the jobs I was told to do, which I refused of part of my course, was to go looking through people's garbage. I refused.
Wow. So that's a thing.
That's an actual thing. That was in the 90s when I was in college. Yeah, in the 90s.
I got to ask, Dani, I have to ask. What could you possibly find that'd be worth a damn in my garbage?
I mean,
like if you were, what were you looking for? When they trained you to do this, what were you looking for?
Okay, so I say again, I never did it because I had such a germ phobia. I'm like, no, I did something else instead. But they'd get you to look for. So remember when you'd have those telephone pads? So the phone rings, the phone on the wall, and you put they'd be looking for,
you write it down.
Yeah, telephone numbers, names, anything like that. Old bank books, remember the banking books, photographs, anything, bills, numbers, account numbers, anything like that whatsoever. They weren't as advanced in those days for kind of DNA, which they are now, or they may have been, but just wasn't revealed or disclosed to us, the public. But yeah, stuff like that. just like bonkers, crazy stuff like that. So I got a question for you.
Okay.
And again, it's a quick one, which you could take 4 hours to answer this and discuss the crafts you went up and down on. But how long did it take you to physically get on board a craft and get to the moon? Get to the moon.
Okay, so there were several trips that I went on. The very first one was from the tarmac of Inyokern. We had a triangular craft. I kind of hate that they call it the TR-3B, that everybody calls it that, because they have different names. It was one of those that came down, and we flew to the moon in probably an hour and a half. So I was a kid, so it might have been half that, right? So as a kid, are we there yet? Are we there yet? So it felt like an hour and a half. It could have been 45 minutes, but it was a span of, it was greater than 30 minutes and less than 2 hours, I believe. It wasn't a super long trip. So we went there. So that was that time. Later on, I was on the same craft, a different one, but basically the same craft. And this was 4 or 5 years later, and I woke up halfway there. I woke up in the last 30 minutes of the trip, and we were already there. I would been drugged and then put on the craft. So my ship that I worked on at the end. So we're talking about UAPs that have been reported and admitted by the government. So I worked on a craft I worked on several from 1988 till 2000. I was the personnel that worked on ship maintenance and then cargo engineering on these craft. And the last one that I was on, we could go to the moon in just a few minutes, from A to B. And the ship itself had the ability to create its own wormhole and jump to another star system instantly. Well, it wasn't entirely instantly, like they had to power up for it. It was a 12 or 15 minutes process to turn everything on and go, but we would jump immediately to another star system. And then they had a power downtime and they had to do it again. So there was a minimum amount of time that we had to stay there before we could leave again. But the flight from the Earth to the moon on the Max von Laue was just a few minutes. It was a very fast. I mean, we could go from the Earth to Ceres in 90 minutes, something like that. 90 minutes, depending on where the orbit of Ceres was. It was very fast.
And thank you. No, amazing. And what do the liars that, the liars that tell us how long it could possibly take? One day we'll have the operation and this apparatus to get ourselves to Mars, but until then we must only dream about it, or wait for people, the billionaires, to throw money at stuff. It's just so annoying. Guys, over the years, the periodic table has been interfered with. There have been some periodic elements that have been taken away so that you have a harder time discovering how to create this amazing technology that Tony has already been witness to, and I myself, in some regards, in the space industry background that I do have seen also. So I just drew this little symbol here. I don't know if you can see it. You should be able to see it. So two of the symbols taken off of the periodic table, they kind of look like this, like two C's almost, but that says anti-gravity. And so it was using these two elements, bringing them together, which created anti-gravity propulsion. So I'm just going to put that out there because there's a few people that will trigger something in them. And it's time to share, disclose every single thing without holding back, unless it's things like the names of the Illuminati families. Keep those names out of your mouth. They are a scary, terrifying bunch of people. They will murder you. They will kill you. Just had some weirdo outside my house throw a stick up trying to take my internet down. Had someone slash my quad 3 times and my car the other day. I got one of those and one of those for you. I'm the wrong person to come at. I'm the wrong person to intimidate. All right. So let's just all be sensible. There's a place for everybody, but information and disclosure is where it's at right now. And we are moving forward all of us lovingly, shoulder to shoulder. And again, Tony, people like you, just incredible. We couldn't be more grateful. And your book, Ceres, because you were up and down to Ceres, you spent time on that planet, which we're going to come to in a minute, because I just want to mention a couple of other people who are going to be with us at the Orlando conference, which is the Galactic and Spiritual Informers Connection. And if you want to go to the website, it's galacticspiritualinformers.com. The website is galacticspiritualinformers.com. That's all the info. There's a whole lineup of speakers, and that's where you can get your tickets. So get your hotel rooms and get your tickets now, because it will sell out. So one of the speakers is our French friend, Jean-Charles Moyen. He has told me 3, 4, 5, 6 times that the first time he saw you, he felt resonance. He felt emotional. He felt love for you, like he knew you. And I've done interviews with him on my channel too, and he's such a beautiful man. But you know what's so exciting for me about him? Jean-Charles Moyen introduced to me a whole new species of being, and I'd never heard of the planet Ultima or Ultima, Ultima. And this beautiful man, everybody out there, Jean-Charles Moyen, who was also a secret space program soldier, kidnapped, taken from, he's French. He woke up one night and saw a being, an alien in his bedroom. And this alien has green skin, and he's not a reptilian, green skin and red eyes. And this person's name is Victor. And it turns out that this being is actually the brother to now Jean-Charles Moyen, who's in human form. So what we're going to have to start getting our heads around is time jumping, you know, other timelines, and that we've all been different beings, different species. Oh my God, I was doing a past life regression. I've done many hundreds of thousands of groups, and I was doing a group of women, and it was in San Diego. And this one woman, oh my God, she was a stone. All three lives I took people down into, she was pissed. She's like, I'm a fucking stone. I'm like, you could have been a crystal, like, you know, and it sounds so ludicrous until we start talking about green aliens with red eyes. And by the way, something else that was, you know, the people, the losers that run the world, the failures, the retards, that's the real definition of retard, is those authoritarians, because, you know, they're, you know, one cold person, one hungry person, one homeless person in your town, and your government is a failure. It's really that simple. I don't really think there's an argument against it. But anyway, somebody said years ago that they had seen little green men. They didn't actually say that. They didn't say they've seen little green men. They said, I saw little gray men. So what the losers do is they go, ha, did you see little green men? Oh my goodness, don't tell anyone. You'll end up in the loony bin. They do all that to you guys out there. And then they'll show you an image of the White House in the 50s with a ton of flying saucers going over it. Guess who's in the flying saucers, guys? The friggin' Nazis. The Nazis who learned how to create these machines, these anti-gravity flying saucers. Just look up Hitler, I like to call him Hitler's bell. So it's time, right? It's all there. So Tony and I are sharing old news, and that's the great thing, Tony, isn't it? This is like what we're discussing now at the White House is like 40, 50 years old, longer, actually. It's over 50 years old. It's like, come on. But don't look at Wikipedia. Don't trust Wikipedia.
People see the news, people see things like this, and they go, okay, great. How's it going to affect me? And what they don't realize is that it's affecting you. Every bit of your whole life is a result of the decisions that were made after that incident. After that time when they buzzed the White House, the entire world changed. After basically 1947, we had some major changes in our history. 1913 was the Federal Reserve Act. We haven't been the same as America was done operating the way it was. And then in 1947, the president lost his power. And there was a lot of things that happened. And what we're seeing is that those changes come to a head right now. And where people are going, wait a minute, we don't have free speech anymore. We can't say things for certain reasons in America. We can't do things. We're starting to see, you know, the the heavy hand of the people that took over at that time come down on us. So people, the normies, as we call it, are waking up and going, wait a minute, something ain't right here. And even though they don't, I think a lot of them don't want to admit defeat, and well, they're not going to come over to the side of the ufology and everything and kind of learn, but a lot of them are. And that's what I mean by the audience getting bigger, because everybody's starting to see that it's not adding up, that the official narrative is not adding up the way it used to. They used to stay ahead of it. Now we have the internet and other forms of communication that keep people in the know much quicker than they can make up a plausible lie to hide it. And so information like mine and other people that are going to be at this conference, like Alex, Elena, Dr. Sella will be there. I mean, on and on and on. This the list at your conference, the roster is just amazing. I would love to go there and just sit in the audience and be a fly on the wall. So, but that information is starting to be digested where it was undigestible 10 and 15 years ago. It was, people would listen to the information and not be able to swallow it. And nowadays people are starting to be able to digest this information, and it's groundbreaking because it changes the way that you see the world, and it'll proliferate because someone that is in the audience and sees it and really gets their head around what I went through can go and tell somebody else, and then they tell somebody else, and that's really staying ahead of the mainstream media, because what we've seen, if anything, is that the main media, our main access to fast data, which is the media, is not what it seems to be. It's a controlled thing, and we're not getting real information. I say it all the time. If you watch the financial news and you invest in exactly what the financial news tells you to do, you'll go broke in a year. They're telling you what not to do. And the news is the same way. The news is the exact same way. The mainstream media is a tool of a giant corporate entity that's global and has a lot more money and a lot more resources than we imagined that somebody should have, or that any entity should have. And so they're way ahead of us in many ways, and people are starting to wake up and starting to see things happen. But we still have a long way to go, but it's amazing to see it. I can't see us losing. I just can't. I can't see it. It's too late now. There's already too many of us. They're not gonna put the cork back in the bottle right now of disclosure. It's too late. It was a milestone for me to get my book out. There's a lot of things that are not in my book because I said, I've just got to get this thing. It's now or never. If I don't get my book done, if I don't just call it finished and wrap it up it's never going to get done.
Yeah.
And I know that now that it's done, they can't undo it. It can't be undone. There are physical copies in thousands of homes. And so that information is out there. You're not going to undo it. And I'm just one. There are dozens of me making books like this that are coming out of testimony. There's more coming up. Like, I'm working with people that want to speak publicly about it. I'm working with a few people to kind of get their story in order and check it and kind of accentuate their proof points, the things that are provable, because that's the first thing you need to be able to fight a skeptic off and not just talk to people that are going to love what you say no matter what it is. And so, because we're seeing a lot of I call it dissipation. We're seeing a lot of dissipation. We're seeing everybody's a super soldier. You're a super soldier, super soldier. We're seeing a lot of that stuff, and it's dissipating the information. So the burden of proof is still on the whistleblower, and it's more important now more than ever. And the people in the audience, I would say, if you're listening to these new testimonies and whistleblowers, and they're not all BS, but take it with a grain of salt, because unless there are people that have things that have been proven. And so that testimony to me is more valuable than one that has no proof. And it doesn't mean that the one that has no proof is not real. It's just that you got to stick with what's provable. And that's just the way it is right now, because we live in a time when they're coming out. And what I found, the common denominator in the dissipation is that they're trying to tell us, these guys that are coming forward are saying, oh no, there's only like 90 ET races that we deal with. The rest of them we expelled, and we're way in charge of. We beat them up. Our military went into space and we beat them all up, and we're the most advanced guys on the block, and we kick ass. And that's what's going on. You can't go very far. You can go to a couple star systems over, but then it's too far. And so that's the common denominator. They're trying to, they know that we're going to get out of the cage that we're in, we're going to get out of it, and they want to create another cage around it. And the reality is that there is no cage. That once you get into space and once you get access to the power generation and the wormhole technology, the natural portal that's around Jupiter, you can go anywhere and instantly. And so there is no cage beyond just what your own what our own limits are. So there is a real effort to change the information that's coming up, but it's too late. Like I said, it's too late. There's no way we're losing this. There's no way we're losing this.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. I mean, I've been saying for over a year, or I haven't even had my channel out. So that's actually, I just told a fib, guys. I'm sorry. But for months and months, I've been saying to guys, like, please start your own channel. Start your own channel. If you lie, as Tony said, it's going to be obvious, because us humans, because there's so much more lightness now, we're so aware, our radar is up. You can tell a Billy bullshitter much easier now. And before you and I hit record today, I forget what I said to you, but we both got God bumps at the same time. And I'm like, oh my God. And you went, oh my God. And I love that electromagnetic frequency that goes between people when the body is registering truth. Bumps. It's just so beautiful. But the more people do come forward, with their true stories, not their imagined stories, because a lot of people are like, no, I am the pilot of the arcs, the space arcs. I am Queen Nefertari. I'm Akhenaten. I'm Mary Magdalene. I'm this, I'm that. I was the commander over Elena Denan. No, I'm the father of Alex Collier. People so want to be a part of, and we all have been at some point, but we're not all born into the most famous, I am Marie Antoinette, I am Val Thor, we're not all that.
It's concerning to me. The real turnoff when people come out and come at from a place of ultimate authority, like I'm a king. You know what I mean? Like when they come out in these really grand, I'm in charge of all the finances in the universe.
Oh, yeah.
Thing. So, I mean, it's just unbelievable from the start. It's not realistic. And even if it's true, what I'm saying is, even if it's true, it's not realistic. The other thing that I found is that there's a very real effort. And I don't know what it is, like the tarot cards or something. I do readings on people for your star family reading, which a lot of that is great. But what I found is that they're all nearby stars. And your star family comes from much farther away. Like, remember, there are most of the stars that are up there we don't have names for, and you come from those two. So there ain't enough cards in the tarot deck or combinations of the tarot deck for all the stars and places your star family may be. So you have to keep that in mind. So I don't like dispelling anybody, like I'm not, but what I'm saying is there's a lot more than what we're being told. I think a lot of things. For one. For two, a lot of people are being told that they're super soldier. You were a super soldier. Here's your reading. I got a feeling. And that's great. And it may be true. But if you don't have a physical memory of being a super soldier, I would urge you not to go around speaking about it and bragging about it. For one. And for two, anybody that was a super soldier, which the term isn't great that day. I would like you to think about this. They were in super combat. So the super soldiers don't go up there and don't get used. They see things that wear on a soul. Even if they delete your memory, these people come back, and an actual one will have PTSD. They'll have substance abuse problems. They'll have relationship problems. They'll have problems constantly, on and on and on. So people that are super soldiers that come back and they act like nothing bad happened to them, I question it, because you don't come out of that without some deep spiritual scars. From what you'd see from these people, from the little bit that I was a support soldier for a very short time. I was on ships that we were in combat a couple times, and I was greatly changed from it. And I didn't see half of what some of these soldiers, these full-time soldiers, see. And there's just no getting out of that, having your head together, having your head on straight. And so when people are coming and saying left and right that I'm a super soldier, and like very nonchalant, very matter of fact, it's just hard for me to get. And I don't want to shoot anybody down, because I really, deep inside, and ultimately, I want more testimonies like mine to come out. I think, there's a lot more to be learned. And I want a bigger crowd that can all prove what they're saying and stand, like you said, shoulder to shoulder and tell the public what's going on. And I deeply want that. But I think that That's one method they do. When there was a real picture of a UFO 50 years ago, when there was a real picture of a UFO, all of a sudden there were 1,000 fake pictures, buried it down. And so you couldn't find somebody looking for it, go, well, I can't find it, forget it, I'll move on. And they go back about their life. And that's what they're doing to us right now. They're
Yes.
burying it under this super soldier, millions of super soldiers coming forward, and other people that don't even remember anything. They're just being told that they have that.
Right. And using massive distraction as well. Distract. Look over here. Look over here. Something in the celebrity world. Celebrity, sir? Are you sure? I think we're over all of that. I did a conference on the weekend with Huna Flash, David Mahoney, Jay Campbell, and my new best friend, Dr. Christiane Northrup. Dr. Christiane Northrup. She's got one of the best laughs I've ever heard. You can hear that girl laughing from the back of the conference room. And she found my fart gun hilarious. Okay, we had such a laugh. She's so lovely and just full of life. And she's actually going to be in the audience at the conference. You said about being an audience member. My love, you're a main speaker. But she is going to be in the audience. So is Mark Atwood from the UK. So is Catherine Edwards from the UK. So is Janine Steffens from Turn the Page. I mean, it's just like this gathering, our conference, the Galactic and Spiritual Informers Connection, Orlando, Florida, 21, 22, and 23 at this year, 2022, is creating and bringing. It's a supernova. It is a shift in consciousness. The people that want to be part, the people that are speaking, the audience, and you know the audience, not just the amazing people I've mentioned, but all the amazing people that make up that audience, all the love beings, all the people. I have emails every day, so many emails. There are so many people coming who've never been able to stand with who they are in public. They've known they have star connections. They know they feel all completely alien. They've always been rejected. They've never felt like they fit in. Like, this is your crowd. You know, we are your crowd. We're all part of the same crowd. But don't put people on a pedestal, because that old programming, we're done with that shit. We're done with putting people on pedestals. No more. I mean, some people have a story that's going to help, of course, but don't be all in this, oh, I'm not worthy. Oh, you know, no, we've got to stop that too. I kept telling these, I had so many people on the weekend, it's so embarrassing. It's lovely, but I find it so like, oh, it's so embarrassing. People say, oh my God, I love you so much. And they get all emotional. And this used to happen when I was on television before, years ago. That's why it took me so long to go back out in the public, because you don't love me. You just see something in me, or you see something in Tony that you can relate to. And it's actually opening wounds sometimes that need healing. And sometimes people like Tony has a balm, a soothing balm for your pain and your wounds, or helps you to unlock memories. And not just that, on Tony's website, which is Tony Rodrigues, which I want you to explain that Rodrigues and Rodrigues in a second, because there's a lot of confusion. Sure. You've got memory programs to help people actually remember their memories, don't you?
Yes, I have a memory program it's hosted on Teachable, I think, and Jackie Kenner helped me. She helped me with the website and everything. But what happened was people would see me on an interview, and they'd contact me, and they'd say, I need help with, you know, I have, this is the difference I talked about earlier for people that are told they're a super soldier, but have no memories. Most people that I work with have a memory that they can't explain. They have these vivid memories, these flashes of memories that they're like, man, it sounds like what you just talked about. And when I saw you, I had to speak to you, Tony, because I've had this memory my whole life. And this happened, and please, can you help me out? How do I remember more? In the beginning, when I got my memories back, like I said, there's still a lot I don't remember, but I knew that I remembered getting up in the morning. I remembered riding the train to work, going to work, coming home, riding the train back, and going to bed. I remembered that.
When you're in space, you're talking about when I was on Ceres.
When I worked on the Ceres Colony Corporation, I lived on the planetoid Ceres in between Mars and the asteroid belt. I knew that, but I thought, there has to be more. Somebody asked me, what was the bathroom like? And I thought, I should be able to remember that. I did use the bathroom. I did get a haircut. I did brush my teeth. I should remember these things. And I began to try different things. I got rosemary. I got the rosemary helps with your essential oil. I was like pouring it on my shirt. Every day I walked around stinking like rosemary, trying to help my memories. And I would meditate. I tried all these different things. I did not get a hypnotic regression. I have not yet. And what it is like, I stumbled upon a set of exercises that worked. And I remember that we had disposable toothbrushes, and you pull it out of the plastic and you threw it away when you were done. And I remember that the bathroom was this long. They had the troughs that we'd pee in. It was like an old 50s bathroom, like a big locker area with showers. I remembered that just those details. There were many things that I unpacked. I remember the entrance to my place where I would go to Crumbs. I remember when they had the remodel. And there are things that you can remember. Somebody that has a repressed memory, they have one memory of being in a room with a gray, and then I don't remember anything else. I begin with like, well, what did the floor look like? Where were you right prior to that? Where were you right after that? Like a lot of things people don't think about, and you can fish out, you can kind of break out and get more memories. And once that happens, it opens the door to more and more memories. But there's a series of exercises. And what happened was I couldn't keep up with everybody. I couldn't. I work a regular job. I have a normal life, teenage daughters. I have a house. I have car payments. I have a life. And this takes up my weekends is what, for the last 6 years, I've done the interviews and everything almost every weekend. And so I couldn't keep up with all the people. And I started really kind of pissing people off because I couldn't get back with them. And some of my consultations that I do, I haven't been able to get back. It gets busy. So I made this memory course, and it's a recording, and it works. It genuinely works. You can watch this course. It gives you a series of exercises and a good time of day to do it. And you can expand the memories. Anything, if you have a memory to work with, a keystone memory, you can expand it. It works. It works. And it doesn't have to be secret space programs. It can be repressed memories. But this system works, and I feel that it's perfect for just before somebody's going to get a hypnotic regression. I feel that you should do my course, do these, and expand on your memories that you want and get a baseline for your higher self to work with in a hypnotic regression. I'm not anti-hypnotic regression, but my course is like a workout, and hypnotic regression is like a surgery, for your memories. So I feel that they work great hand in hand together, and even in between and after it could work. But I found that it works, and a lot of people have nothing but positive feedback about that memory course. The other thing you want to talk about, my name is Tony Rodrigues with an S, and that's the correct pronunciation. It's Portuguese. 7 greats ago, we were from the Canary Islands, and that guy sailed to the island of Maui when it became a territory of the United States in the 1870s, right around there, and claimed a bunch of property, and that's my family's from there. And so it has an S on the end from the original name. So it was like in I forget what 1400s or something, King Rodrigues named one of his explorers Rodrigues, and that's how the name started. Rodrigues with the Z was already a very prolific name in Spanish. So this is the Portuguese version that a king created, and it's Rodrigues with an S on the end. So that's the correct, but people call me Rodrigues. I've been called a whole lot worse. I'll tell you that. I've been called a lot worse than any way you can mispronounce my name. I'm definitely not picky about it at all. So
yeah. Well, it's interesting because I've been calling you Rodrigues since I met you, and you didn't correct me because you're so sweet and you're so polite and you're so kind and lovely. And then somebody on my YouTube channel, when I made the video for the conference in October, the Galactic and Spiritual Informers Conference that you're speaking at, and I said, Tony Rodrigues, someone wrote, she said your name wrong. I'm like, oh my God. And then I called you. I'm like, dude, did I get your name wrong? You went, it's okay. I'm like, oh no. Because Tyler always called you Rodrigues. And I thought that was just because you guys are friends as well. I thought that was just kind of a little buddy thing, and then I'm glad I found out because the name, the vibration is actually very important. It is actually important to get the vibratory resonance of the name right. You know what I mean? Especially with a leader like you. And I know that that's uncomfortable for you, but you are a leader. You are leading a charge in a certain way. And isn't it interesting, your ancestral heritage? Explorers, right? And now in this lifetime, you've been exploring in space. There's many different things that we're figuring out that we didn't realize on top of what we've already been learning. I won't say any more than
True.
that at this point, but I'm going to share more as we go more into who's going to be speaking. Let me just turn this fan off. The only fan in the room. So I wanted to mention another person that's going to be speaking at this beautiful conference, and that is Sunbo Truebrother. And Sunbo Truebrother is an elder in the Sasquatch experiencer community. He is a French Canadian. There is a beautiful broadcast on my channel where I interview this very gentle man who has amazing experiences with Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeti. Now, on a side note, you mentioned Mars. You were actually fighting reptoids or insectoids on Mars. Insectoids.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
And you actually lost a limb, didn't you?
2. I did 3 combat missions, and I was actually in combat in the final mission that I was on, and we had casualties, and I was injured badly. Yes.
Okay, and again, that's in the book.
It's funny that there's a clip on one of my interviews. They cut it up and they put it on TikTok, and it shows me there. I said, he cut my arm off. He bit my arm off. They just showed that clip. They don't show the rest of the story. And then all the comments are like, sitting there with 2 arms. You know, like they're making fun of me with it. What they don't realize is that it's a testimony of what the medical technology is capable of in the space programs. Is that there are people that were injured much worse than that. People that would be considered dead by our standards, and they would bring them back with a brand new body by however means they do it. And, you know, I didn't witness it either time when I was repaired. It happened. I was hurt very badly on a few occasions, and the next day I was just fine. So it was like that there. So I just want to mention that because a lot of people kind of get lost on that if they're not familiar with the technology that we've been talking about.
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you. Yes. And again, it's like drip, drip, drop, drop for everybody, because everybody has the right to understand and to know and to learn. And that's why we do all of these free broadcasts, guys. We bring the information to you in the different layers and levels that we do. In terms of Mars, do you remember seeing the pyramids and the kind of ancient buildings when you were there physically on the ground on Mars, not underground, above ground?
So we did do some hikes, and there were some ruins, but not like pyramids or structures. But the area that we came around was where, and the soldiers that we were with said they were millions of years old, but they were, you know how people stack rocks, like at a river, they'll stack rocks and make a column of rocks. They were like that, but very high, very big rocks, and they were stacks, and then there was a small, like a wall of rocks that went in a circle around it. It was an area that was very ancient, and we hiked through it. And they said, don't touch anything, that they have the scientists that they've already studied it. But I didn't see any. But that was a structure that something built that was there before we were, of millions of years. They said that, you know, the number millions came up. I think I mentioned that in the book too, on the hike, the second hike. But I didn't see any of the larger buildings while I was there. We were in an area that was, we were hunting bugs so we were where the bugs were.
When you say bugs, you mean the insectoids?
Yes.
You were looking for them. So, well, there is a very famous picture of an actual face on Mars. And some people say it's the face of an ape, a monkey, for example. And of course, you're not going to get any real truth from the people that control the photographs and the satellites and the cameras, etc. But there are people who believe that the monkey face, is the Sasquatch. I love that.
There's a friend of mine that has the Sasquatch Museum in Georgia. And I had him on my show and we talked, and that was one of the questions. He's somebody, because he has a Sasquatch museum, he gets to hear people come in and he hears there's different testimonies from all over the world, and they tell him stories. And so I said, so this is what I'm dying to ask. Do you think it's a ET? And he said it absolutely, undoubtedly has to be an ET. From all the stories he hears, he said there's no way that it's he said, and most of the sightings are in a neighborhood, like in an urban, suburban area. It's like we don't get sightings from way out in the woods as much as you might think. Most of the sightings are right outside, right on the other side of the woods that come right up to somebody's yard. And he said, so there was a lot. It was like in depth. There's a lot to it, but they are definitely an ET, and it makes sense because we would have bodies, or uh, we would have evidence if they were an indigenous species. We would have found them by now, I would think.
And the other thinking is they're an advanced humanoid, an advanced hairy human, far more advanced than you and I, my love, and anybody else watching this. So some of those secrets, those realities, those truths will be delivered by Sambo True Brother at our conference, along with Jean-Charles, Tony Rodrigues, Dr. Michael Salla. Dude, Dr. Michael Salla, he's not been out in public since 2019. He's going to be standing on stage delivering one of his uniquely brilliant, broadcasts, but he's going to be there in person. And if that doctor, the good doctor we call him, the doctor is not reporting intel, then on a person, let's say, then that person's clearly not one to be completely engrossed in that information. Dr. Salla is so dedicated to humanity in bringing truth, and the amount of checks that like him and Jean-Charles Moyen, they're friends, because Dr. Michael Salla was putting Jean-Charles through his paces for years, testing him, making him answer questions so he didn't just slip through, and start lying on on Dr. Salla's channel. And even more so now, there are so many people that are Billy bullshitters, disinfo agents, purposefully in that place to make everyone look like a liar, because there's so many people who are on the target, over the target, and they're leading the charge now. So watch people like him, Dr. Michael Salla. If he's not talking about someone, then it's because he doesn't have proof that they are who or what they say they are. So just one other person. Go ahead.
I'd like to say that I've always been a big fan of his work, because in the early days I worked with him as well, and he was very classy at the way he did it. There were things in the beginning, when my memories were coalescing, there were details, and there were a lot of things that I couldn't make sense of. Like I remembered A and B, but really there were 3 or 4 things in between, other details that came later. And he was very classy at telling me the things that didn't make sense. And there were things that now looking back on it and following his work and listening to him and others talk about me, there were things back then that checked out that he didn't tell me about, that I was telling him that were evidence, but he didn't say it. He didn't tell me that, so that it would remain valuable to check it against somebody else. And so he just really did a class A job when he vetted me and questioned me. And he was very, very direct with me and genuine with me through the entire process. And I have a great deal of respect. So anybody that he comes out and endorses, if they went through half of what he put me through, then you have to believe that they were very genuine, that there's a lot of evidence for them. So because he was, I've worked with several researchers since then, and he's the best one by far as vetting me and riding the line of skepticism and belief. And so give me more, and doing it in a professional way. He really did it very well. So some researchers have, skeptics aren't going to accept any evidence. They're going to stay skeptical, and people that believe you aren't going to accept any problems. They're going to ignore those and stay believing. And he really rode the line back and forth easily. He took what he was presented, he made logical conclusion out of it, and then he asked and moved on. And so because of the way that he did such a good job with me, everybody else that he's vetted since then is why I follow Exopolitics. It's one of the few ones that I listen. I don't listen to all the videos or the channels that I go on, because it's just, I don't have that. There's not enough hours in the day.
Yeah.
And so I follow him to kind of stay. So I'm looking for, it's been a long time since he spoke it live, and well, especially with Elena there. So we're going to get active intel. So there are people, I'm somebody that I hope and fingers crossed is inactive. Somebody that went through what I went through. I was active at one time in the secret space program, and now I'm inactive. And most of the people that I deal with are the same thing. So 90% of everybody I talk to is inactive. There are a few people that I'm working with that behind the scenes that may be talking, that are active, I would consider active, and they're very important because that's really a reflection of what's going on in the world out there. And so Elena is somebody I would classify as active. She has active contact. And Dr. Sella has other people that he's dealing with and researching with that are active people. So that's very important for us right now. It's one of the few sources of real information that we can get, is people that are actively being contacted, active participants in ET, whatever phenomenon.
Yeah.
So that's a big component of this conference versus any other conference. You're going to have people there that are active.
Totally. Thanks for saying that. And so Dr. Michael Salla, for me, one of his most exciting, active soldiers that does not reveal his face or his full voice, is a man we're known to know as a JP. And the information that man brings, it's so bloody exciting. He's going on and off planet. He's in the Bermuda Triangle. He's going down with Americans into these space arcs. These space arcs are many, many across the planet. And Elena Danan was one of the first people a few months ago to start reporting on these space arcs, which are now activating. And there is bugger all the evil ones can or will do about it. They do not have the keys. They do not have the signatures. You guys, you're stuffed, and you know it, and we know it. Okay, so back off. Listening to people like JP is so exciting. And then what we do is we bring in information that pretty much crushes a lot of people's belief system. And it is sad. It's happened to me. It's happening to all of us. The crushing knowledge that Noah's Ark wasn't a big wooden boat. It was actually a highly advanced craft that took samples of DNA. Because there's no bloody way you're going to get elephants and giraffes and hippos and spiders and this and that wiggle and wiggle and wiggle inside her on the same boat. No, but that's how. Let's take the people over here. You know, let's tell them that this book's full of truths, and and if they don't believe this, they're going to go to hell. That was my upbringing. That was my real depressive, suppressive upbringing. And then one day I thought, I don't believe it. Yes, go ahead.
That might have made perfect sense back in the day. But,
when you were like 7.
We've moved up. Well, I mean, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, when they were still having a hard time getting their clothes washed.
Yeah.
So that might have made perfect sense, and that's all they needed to worry about and get on with life. So we're at the point now where we are a species that's capable of joining these societies, even if we're very backwards and very stupid, you know what I mean, and very, very programmed. We are still on the verge of being a member of these societies, and where we weren't 1,000 years ago. So it made sense to have a book that kind of misled people and got people to not be as violent or as bad as they would have been if they were left alone. So I mean, that's where we're at today. We're on the edge of a whole new world, a whole new thing here, and it's exciting to see. And I'm very I'm very positive about what I'm seeing. And I think that even though we're not out of the woods yet, there's a lot of there's a lot of dark things going on. I'm still very positive. I'm starting to see, you know what I mean? The world is kind of moving towards a disclosure world. And we call it, Dr. Sal, they call it a Star Trek future. And I think that's where we're heading. I think that there's no putting the genie back in the bottle now. I think it's, the news is out, and we're going to work it out.
Mm-hmm. And for those that don't give a damn about Star Wars or Star Trek and any of that kind of symbology and filmography that we've been given to try and get our heads around it, don't worry, it's all right. Just know that you as a human being are a beautiful, brilliant, fantastical star being, hybrid, just this amazing, magnificent being. And the more that you come to listen to people like Tony Rodrigues and the people at that conference in Orlando, October, you're going to have such a revelation that you can comfortably step your way gently into these new truths if they're new to you. But there's really nothing to be frightened of at this stage. Most of the hardship is done, thanks to people like Tony Rodrigues, Alex Collier, Dr. Michael Salla, and Elena Danan, for example. And Elena, as you said, is an active person. She's literally in real time going up and down to different crafts. She's been to Jupiter. Oh, ha ha, say the skeptics. Sorry, love, you might need to lay down when you've started listening to Elena Danaan, read her book, or listen to people like Tony Rodrigues, because your skepticism is in the minority. Bye-bye. Bye-bye there. Off you go. Mwah. We send you our love. Bye-bye. All right, mate. Well, listen, I think that at this stage, we can probably leave things here for now. I am so excited to share your book again, Ceres Cavalier, Ceres Colony.
Ceres Colony Cavalier.
Do you have it on your desk?
I have one here. Yeah, I always do that for interviews in case, because, so I got to hold it in front of my face. There's the book.
Hold it there for a second so guys can take a photograph of it.
And it's on Amazon. You can click to it. You can find it on my website, tonyrodrigues.com. It's on Amazon. It comes up for Ceres Colony Cavalier, and there's a Kindle version. So for the Kindle, the electric version, a lot of people, I guess some countries you pay a lot of taxes. You know, people that are in Europe or elsewhere, when they buy the paperback, it's like a huge tax import. So they can get the Kindle version as well. So it's done well. It did 6 weeks at #1, and it's still selling. Woo! So I'm very happy that just the information's getting out there. So it's making it to a, you know, when it's a book, some people don't want to sit there. I'm one of the people that have a hard time watching an interview for 2 hours. I can sit and talk at them because I'm talking to you, because I'm hanging out with, you know what I mean, beautiful people. And so it's easy to sit here and talk, but to sit and watch, it's like I've got stuff to do. So some people are the same way, and they never watch the interviews, but they can read a book, and people blow through this book pretty quick. And so some people can sit and read a book easily, and it's reaching a new audience because of that. My information is off of the interview circuit and into a new audience, and it's great for that. So I'm about the mission, man. I think that, you know, I just want to see the day when we're all on the same page, and not everybody's fooled by the crap on the media.
Absolutely. 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 Oh my gosh. So can't wait to see you again and hug you in October, if we don't see each other physically between then and now. I'm so proud that you said yes. Thank you for saying yes to doing this conference in October. Guys, we'll put all the details underneath. And to you out there, you know, you listen to someone like Tony Rodrigues, who has opened a door in this disclosure community. And we do encourage you, come forward, tell your stories, start your channels. Like, don't bullshit, because we'll know, because humans are so brilliant. Now we know we've been lied to so much in so many ways. Our radar has sharpened. And so we're a lot more discerning now about who we believe. But start talking, start yelling, start sharing. This is your time to have your place to share your truth. And we welcome it. We truly do. And so to all of you out there, I am Dani Henderson, spiritualtherapist.com. I send you my love, and I'll see you soon.